Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Friend, the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Oh, well, looky here. Look what Max Dude was playing his copy of Bayonetta 3 on, his Nintendo Switch, in spite of assuring his audience that he was definitely gonna play the game on Yuzu, on his high-powered gaming PC to get the definitive experience. Max Dude actually ended up streaming the game on Nintendo Switch, as I predicted he would. Because, as I knew would happen, the game was not running well on Yuzu. Oh, the game runs great, but it crashes every 5 to 10 minutes. You can't play the game. It's not running great if you can't even play it. I don't understand this basic thing that eludes emulator fanboys. The game can't be the definitive version of the game if it doesn't even work. It's stupid. But this kind of goes into what I've been saying about Yuzu and the emulation community and their insistence that they're pirating everything before it even comes out. That is demonstrably not the case, right? We saw a lot of these YouTubers who were hyping up emulators going into this year. People who were oh no, it's Alex. We're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Review Tech USA was talking about Metroid Dread last year, and now we had Max Dude talking about Bayonetta 3 this year. And you all notice this pattern eventually, when you start to see these people, is that their narrative that everyone is pirating Nintendo Switch games and having a better experience on emulation before the game even comes out on Switch. The narrative simply isn't true, right? Games crash, they have problems, save files have issues. It's the point where I don't understand why you would even consider buying the game. I don't understand why you would even consider getting a game, trying to get a game running on an emulator, because every time there are always these issues in getting the game up and running, and sometimes the game doesn't even work well at all. I was assured that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was running on Yuzu by early 2018 or something, and I got confirmation this year that it actually does have a lot of problems with frame rate drops and dropped visuals and stuff like that. These things still aren't 100%, but you have this entire community of people who are insisting that that's not the case, that it's the definitive ideal way to play the game. And in the case of Bayonetta 3, which is not that technically demanding, it doesn't look that pretty. It should have been a title that should have been fairly easily to emulate right away, and it just didn't happen. Emulator fanboys are really in denial about how viable emulation is as a format in order to play games at their best possible capacity. If you're going to play a game and want to make sure it works, you just buy it on the console it releases on. That's always going to be the definitive way to do it. You're never going to fix Bayonetta 3 with a patch, right? It's just not going to work. You're going to have to wait for the emulation team to put together something. And considering the lack of interest when it comes to this product, most players are buying the game. That process could take years. Xenoblade Chronicles is extremely popular, and it's been having issues with that kind of thing. It feels like it's a lot like the Steam Deck thing, where I've noticed over the past couple of weeks, a lot of the people who are rabid about the Steam Deck, a lot of them don't even own the console. They don't own the platform, and yet they're rabid fanboys for it. Shitting on people like Quantum TV who own it but don't have anything nice to say about it. And that's the kind of person we're dealing with here, is just people who just exist to hate products for existing, and not necessarily because they actually have a superior alternative. Because when it comes to Nintendo consoles, you simply don't. You're never going to get a console that one-to-one represents the Nintendo library. Even now, Project 64, an emulator that's been in service for 20 years. One of the oldest emulators I'm aware of. Project 64, if you boot that thing up, you get you get a message from the developer asking you for money. So you can't even really say that it's free. because it's not, because these programmers, these developers, they're these days they want to be paid for what they're doing. They have Patreon set up, they have their own website set up. What they're doing is illegal, and all of this can be shut down, but they're being like underhanded about it, and they're being like you know, in this legal gray area, like trying to avoid being prosecuted. But I think a big reason why Nintendo hasn't come after these people is that they're not releasing functional versions of Nintendo games on other consoles. Like, it's just not doable. It's not practical to have these things completely cracked and released. Like, if piracy is a problem when it comes to Nintendo games, it's probably just on hacked switches and just people running games, like downloading games like illegally onto directly onto the platform. They're not doing it on like on like some different system. It's just not practical. It's not like it's easier to just hack a switch, right? If you want to pirate games. So my view on this is that like the emulation community is a farce. It's not like as prevalent or as prominent as they really like to pretend they are. They're not dominant. They're not like the master race or whatever. And like people Max Dude are certainly never going to be able to stream a game day one on an emulator and have a better experience than they would on the actual original piece of hardware. It's just not going to happen.